Welcome back, toy fans, to another edition of Inside Look. Today, we're going to be looking at the logistics of doing collector sales, especially collector sales at a big company. But before we do that, I have two very quick announcements. Well, the first is actually more of a bit of a shout-out and a thank you. Steve Jimenez has done those awesome openings you see before a lot of the Motu videos in this video, and I want to plug his website. So yeah, check it out. If you need web work done, you need videos, openings done, he's an awesome guy and he really helped out. The second one is about subscribing. It's funny how asking people to subscribe seems to be the thing that I do the most in this world.
We seem to be made to suffer. It's our lot in life.
But I guess now, instead of asking people to subscribe to Matty Collector subscriptions, I'm now asking people to subscribe to this video channel. And the reason for that is, well, I really want to make sure there's enough of an audience to kind of justify making these things. I'm not doing a Patreon thing or anything. But I guess, the way YouTube works, when I get to 1,000 subscribers, I seem to be hovering around 500 for quite a while, I'm going to do the video that everyone's really been asking for, which is a look at the decline and fall of Matty Collector. What happened to it? Why did it go away? And what happened to the toy lines that were kind of promised or hinted at, things that were going to happen, why didn't they happen? And really answer the big question of why. What was it that changed, and why are all these toys that we were going to get, why did they go away? All right, so we'll do that once we hit 1,000 subscribers. So the best thing you can do is, subscribe, and it doesn't mean you're going to get more mail. It just means it'll show up in your feed, which is what you want anyway, because you like these videos, right? Okay, with that behind us, let's get into today's video, logistics. Everyone loved that word, right? I used to use that all the time, that we couldn't do this or we couldn't do that because of logistics. Well, for starters, I want to say Mattel is an awesome company. This is not a video bashing Mattel or talking bad about them at all. They are a wonderful company that makes millions of children happy, and their support of what I was doing, what the team was doing, allowed MattyCollector.com to happen. It allowed us to run this business, it allowed us to do all of these awesome toys, and it allowed you guys to get all of these awesome toys. So this is not a video about talking bad about Mattel, it's just talking factually about what made things like Matty Collector difficult logistically to do within the gears of Mattel, and why Mattel as a company and other large toy companies have a hard time catering to the collector crowd. Alright, so let's jump in. So something like Matty Collector is a lot of work. It's not easy to do. There's there's figuring out how you get the product to customers, which product to make, sourcing the product, and doing those very small runs. In other words, it is absolutely a square peg in a round hole. It doesn't fit in with what Mattel does as its core competency, what Mattel does best, which is make kind of the same thing, meaning Barbie dolls. Mattel is very good about making millions and millions and millions of Barbie dolls and millions of Hot Wheels and getting them to customers and retail. This is what Mattel does best. What they're not best at is designing, well, I shouldn't say designing, but making high-end collector items in very, very, very small production runs. It's not what Mattel is designed for. Doing this is really going against the grain and sort of going backwards against everything else the company is trying to do. A really good metaphor of how this is Mattel has a fleet of battleships, think of it like that, or a fleet of aircraft carriers. They have the SS Hot Wheels, they have the SS Barbie, they have the SS Max Steel and the SS Fisher-Price, and they're loaded up. Matty Collector was more like a leaky old canoe. No non-media, no advertising budget, doesn't have all the supplies that these giant aircraft carriers have. And all of these giant aircraft carriers are all lined up at the harbor, ready to go. They're loaded with non-media, they're loaded with PR and advertising, and Matty Collector is way up in the mountains, and we can see the harbor way out there, and we got to get this darn canoe all the way to the harbor on our own. And we're paddling, and we're paddling, and we're paddling, and we're trying to get there, and we can see those battleships all loaded up already with, non-media and PR opportunities. And we're just paddling between the cliffs, and we're trying to get there as best as we can. And, but we're doing it because we're doing it from love. And at the same time, fans, rightly so, are angry at things like shipment delays or product changes, and they're throwing boulders down, and they're rolling boulders off these cliffs, and these boulders are falling down, and they're smashing into our little canoe. And there's Bill Beneke and I paddling the canoe as best we can. And here comes more boulders from angry fans. And I'm not saying the fans didn't have the right to be angry, but when they're if you will, complaining to the Better Business Bureau, thinking that, that'll show them, that'll stick it to them. What it really was like was driving the tank off of a cliff, or throwing those boulders off a cliff. It wasn't making the boss come over and start yelling at me and say, do a better job, you stink. That's not the effect complaints to the Better Business Bureau on such a tiny line like Matty Collector had. Instead, it kind of had the opposite effect. It meant management was like, well, this isn't a business worth investing in. Why are we even doing this business? So here I am with my leaky, smashed-up canoe that has a bunch of boulders in it now, and I'm still trying to get it to the harbor as best I can. And Mattel is pumping out, what it does best. It's doing the same thing. It's making its Hot Wheels, and its Fisher-Price, and its Barbie, and they're all the same, and this is what the company is designed for, and it's doing a great job. And I'm trying to make these super deluxe, yummy, treats, if you will, with the bread metaphor. And I'm trying to do them at a very, very, very low production run. So that's two things against what Mattel does best. And when you do things against what a company does best, things do go haywire. That's kind of the definition of things going haywire. We're trying to do low production runs of high-end product. And on top of that, I'm doing this from home in my spare time. My job was running DC Collector. I didn't have the equipment to do this. I had very little non-media, and it would often get taken away and reallocated to other bigger brands on their bigger battleships. And, it's frustrating. It's like I was playing a game of chess, right? But instead of having all of the pieces on the chessboard, all I had was kind of half the pieces. It was like half of my pieces suddenly disappeared, but I'm still supposed to play the same exact game of chess. You can imagine that, it can be frustrating, especially when fans are complaining about, Digital River or shipments or, and I'm constantly having to say, look, it's logistics. It's logistics, guys. We are a square peg in a round hole. We're doing the best we can with what we have. And I think it was confusing because people would see Mattel as this giant company that should have unlimited resources. But really, a company like Super 7 is much more in place to make low-run collector items because they don't have all the overhead. Even a company like Hasbro, when they try to do something like the Pulse, they updated very, very little. It's a good idea, but it just doesn't work for these giant companies like Hasbro and Mattel because they don't have the infrastructure to support tiny, tiny lines. When you try to be a jack of all trades and do everything well, doing collector product, doing mainline product, doing, millions of toys for boys and girls, and you're trying to do these very, very small runs of collector products, well, you wind up being a jack of nothing instead of a jack of all trades. It has the opposite effect. So that was an inside look on kind of how Matty Collector and doing collector product works inside these giant companies. They're built to do big lines for big sales, not little ones. If you like this, please like, share, and subscribe. And once I hit that 1,000 number, we will do that decline and fall of Matty Collector video everyone's been waiting for. Some exciting videos ahead. Thanks for supporting.